Hello everyone, this is Mr. Lawback. In this short video, we are going to go over some of the significant battles of the Civil War. Now, there were many epic battles that certainly would be worth mentioning, but we simply don't have the time. And the APUSH curriculum is not one of military history, but we are going to talk about some of the most significant battles and why they were so important. The first significant battle of the war took place near Manassas Junction and Bull Run River in Northern Virginia in July of 1861, a couple months after Fort Sumter. Despite the fact that it was a brutally hot day, hundreds of residents from nearby Washington, D.C. came out to picnic and watch the fight, thinking it was going to be a highlight of what many expected to be a war that only lasted a couple of months at most. Neither army was trained or prepared. The Confederate forces were able to get the upper hand, and the Union forces, also known as the Federals, panicked and ran away. The rebels did not really chase them. The significance of this battle was that it pretty much showed everyone that the war might not be as quick as originally thought, and of course, it was the first battle. Now, there would later be a battle called Second Manassas and the Second Battle of Bull Run. The Battle of Shiloh in Tennessee. Grant's army was caught napping, some of them literally, on April 6, 1862, near a church, and was on the brink of being routed when Grant launched a counterattack that the next day pushed the Confederate army away. This battle was important because it solidified the Union Army's dominance in the West. The Battle of Antietam in September of 1862. This was Lee's first push into Northern Territory, Maryland, which was a border state, and took place near Antietam Creek. The battle was fought in a narrow field between the creek and the Potomac River. It was one of the bloodiest battles of the war, with 22,000 killed or wounded. Lee was forced to return across the Potomac, providing Lincoln with a victory that he'd been waiting for to announce his Emancipation Proclamation. The battle, in fact, was more of a draw than a Union victory. The battle also ended the chances of Britain or France allying themselves with the Confederates. So this was a significant turning point at Antietam. The Battle of Chancellorsville, Virginia. The Union Army under General Joseph Hooker tried to surround the Confederate forces in 1863, but Lee took a brilliant gamble, divided his smaller army, and attacked first. It was a complete Confederate victory, but a very costly one. Lee's top general, Stonewall Jackson, was mistakenly shot by his own troops. He died a week later, creating a leadership hole that the Confederacy would never be able to recover from. The Battle of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania. Lee again pushed into Northern Territory in early June of 1863. In a massive battle from July 1st to July 3rd, Lee's army hurled itself at Union forces led by General Meade. The South's efforts failed, and Lee was once again forced to withdraw and retreat to Virginia. Considered one of the most important battles in world history, Gettysburg is regarded by many as the most pivotal fight in the Civil War because it finally stopped legitimate Confederate surges. It also led to the Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln, of course, which is considered one of the greatest political speeches of all time, where Lincoln explained America's critical challenge and the historical context of the war while paying tribute to the men who had died in the face of those challenges. This is the 7 years ago speech that we all know that catchphrase from. The speech was not a very long one, but it certainly was one of the most remarkable speeches in American history. Around the time of the Battle of Gettysburg, there was the Battle of Vicksburg. The Mississippi town was a major Confederate stronghold on the Mississippi River. Coordinating with Union naval forces moving up from New Orleans, Grant masterfully moved his outnumbered army around the city and laid siege to it. Vicksburg surrendered on July 4, 1863, giving the Union the control of the length of the Mississippi River. Coming within a day or two of the defeat of Gettysburg, the loss of Vicksburg was a devastating defeat for the South. In 1863, Union General William Tecumseh Sherman captured Atlanta and marched diagonal eastward across Georgia and then into the Carolinas, destroying everything in his path. This was known as total war. The capture of Atlanta and Sherman's march to the sea, which it would become known as, boosted morale in the North, and as you might remember, helped propel Lincoln to a crucial re-election victory in 1864 against, ironically, a general that he had fired, George McClellan. The end of the war happened at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. This wasn't a battle, but it's where on April 12, 1865, Lee formally surrendered to Grant. The Southern Army was exhausted, outnumbered, and on the verge of starving to death. Grant generously and mercifully fed the defeated Southerners and allowed them to go home, taking their horses and mules with them. There were some later, smaller, inconsequential skirmishes between the North and the South, but for all intents and purposes, the Civil War was finally over after the surrender at Appomattox Courthouse. So again, there were way more battles than what I have mentioned here, but these are some of the most important ones regarding turning points. Thanks for listening, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the day.